This year marks the 60-year anniversary of the relations between the governments of the United States and Uganda. The U.S. Peace Corps was invited to serve here in 1963, and since then, more than 1,800 volunteers have served here.
In 1964, my wife and I and our 3 kids arrived in Uganda about 3 weeks or so before the volunteers came so that we could get ready for them. And it wasn't very long before we were out there meeting the volunteers at the airport, welcoming them to Uganda.
Peace Corps volunteers in Uganda serve at the invitation of the government of Uganda and in response to the articulated needs of the country. We work alongside community members on locally prioritized needs and in so doing build relationships, promote knowledge exchange, and make a lasting impact. The U.S. Peace Corps mission and goals have not changed since the inception. Our mission is to promote world peace and friendship. Our goals are to support the people of interested countries meet their needs for trained men and women, to promote a better understanding of Americans on the part of people served, and to promote a better understanding of other people on the part of Americans. The Peace Corps approach is grounded in mutual respect and collaboration, and our unique approach to development is centered on person-to-person, grassroots effort at the community level. In this way, it is locally driven and more likely to be sustained over time. Currently, we work within the following 3 sectors: education, health and agribusiness, and economic development. From project design through implementation, we are advised by a project advisory committee consisting of key local stakeholders and leaders who help us to identify and articulate how we can best be of service and meet the self-identified development challenges. Peace Corps' focus in Uganda has evolved over time, based on the evolving needs of the country and community priorities. Areas of work over time has included primary education, technical education, micro-enterprise development, community conservation, and natural resource management.
I served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Uganda from 1993 through 1995. I was assigned to what was then the newly formed Bwindi Impenetrable National Park, where I helped to develop and manage a mountain gorilla tourism program. Professionally, I have become a biologist and a writer, and my experiences in Uganda advanced both of those paths, and in fact became the subject matter for my first book. But I think the most important lesson that I learned in Uganda was one of perspective, an insight into the common ties that really bind all cultures together.
I first met Hansen when I came to study mountain gorillas in Bwindi Impenetrable National Park in 1994. I worked with him in monitoring the health of these gorillas. I used to collect fecal samples to check for parasites. The impact that it has had is community health is improving and community well-being. Having found out that people are making gorillas sick, we realized that you can't keep the gorillas healthy and protected without improving the health of their human neighbors.
Most of my work had to do something with training the volunteers, preparing them for the service in Uganda. But for the few times I've been to their sites, seeing what they do, I would say that some have left a big legacy. You will find some volunteers have built libraries. They've set up some community projects, helped establish some projects that can be seen and are viable when you go there. I remember the first trainee that I taught in 1991 helped in habituating chimpanzees.
In 2020, the whole world was faced with the COVID pandemic. In Uganda, we had to evacuate 136 volunteers from communities around the country. This evacuation was challenging, unexpected, and emotional. People had to say goodbye to their host families, co-workers, neighbors, and for the Ugandans, they had to say goodbye to their American friends. The period of evacuation was challenging for everyone, but our commitment to the continued partnership between the Peace Corps and the government of Uganda is evidenced by our continued work. Rather than volunteers leading the work, we pivoted and began staff-led activities in the areas of malaria, food security, COVID, and HIV. We also began a virtual service program where participants in the U.S. were matched with local organizations. In this time of crisis and uncertainty, we remained steadfast and committed to our work here and found new ways to honor our commitments. After 2 years without volunteers, we are thrilled to receive our first cohort in May 2022. We are completing pre-service training for 34 Peace Corps trainees. While much in the world has changed over the past few years, some things remain the same. We are still committed to our mission of world peace and friendship. We continue to honor our 3 goals, and we strive to respond to the needs of the country through grassroots development. Our unique approach enables us to impact the current crisis of COVID, the economy, food security, education, and other areas that were impacted by the pandemic. Our new cohort of volunteers will return to communities, pull up their sleeves, and work alongside their counterparts to tackle the most pressing development challenges of the day, one day at a time.
Well, what's interesting about what led to me coming here was that when I applied for the Peace Corps originally, I applied for a position in the health sector in a different country. And throughout my undergraduate experience, I'm newly graduated, I worked very closely with this professor named Dr. Paris. And he's a phenomenal man. We did research together. I took classes with him. He actually did Peace Corps Uganda. He served here many years ago, and throughout my whole entire undergraduate experience, I heard stories from him, and it was just constantly inspired by him. So when things took a turn and COVID made things weird, it was actually through a weird twist of fate that I ended up being invited to serve in Uganda. And when I finally got the invitation, it was an easy answer. It was an immediate yes.
We want the volunteers, the trainees, volunteers to experience the language as it is spoken in the community, what we call the real language. So that's why Peace Corps Uganda adopted the satellite training model. It's quite interesting what we do, observing people who've come from a different cultural background, transforming in ways that makes them fit very well into the local community. So it helps them to integrate, to do their job, and also the community to accept them as part of them, so that they work with the community to bring the transformation that Peace Corps requires of them. So Peace Corps uses a human-based approach to development. This interpersonal relationship that they acquire the skill to do that using the language is really what makes Peace Corps unique.
For me, actually, Peace Corps has been on my mind for a very long time. I've had a lot of mentors in my life who have been affiliated with Peace Corps or have thought about doing it themselves, and everyone always says how great of an experience it was for them. And so language has definitely been a primary challenge of ours, but it's really rewarding work too, because people don't expect you to be able to speak the local language. So once you say 1 or 2 words and chat back and forth with them, their minds are blown. So it's really rewarding.
My colleagues and I at the U.S. Mission acknowledge and greatly appreciate the support provided to Peace Corps Uganda by the various partner ministries, host organizations, and communities. Their professionalism, hospitality, partnership, and friendship have been critical in our ability to address development challenges. I am proud of the contributions of the 1,859 Peace Corps volunteers who have served in Uganda over the past 60 years, and admire those who have recently taken up the call to serve in Uganda in the present day. They have and will continue to promote a better understanding of America by the people of Uganda. They will also learn from and share Ugandan culture and history with the people of the United States. Many returned Peace Corps volunteers have served in Uganda remain in contact with their host families, communities, and organizations. Many have gone on to serve in leadership roles in diplomacy, development, and civil society. The Peace Corps is a platform that launches future leaders in both countries. The lessons they learn together will carry them forward for a lifetime. On the occasion of the 60th anniversary, I wish to extend my deepest congratulations to Peace Corps Uganda, to the government of Uganda, to the people of Uganda, and to the people who have served and hosted volunteers. As we celebrate the past 60 years, we look forward to the continuing journey of friendship and partnership, and to the prosperity and socioeconomic transformation of the Pearl of Africa, and towards a brighter future together.